That's all good. Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Conversations with my father.
That's me.
That's you. You may have seen in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, if you're watching on YouTube,
Here somewhere.
well, that as well, but there are two things in your bottom right hand corner of the screen. The subscribe button, so please do hover above that if you've yet to subscribe, and please join us on YouTube and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any further uploads. And the other thing that is actually here, would you like to explain what that is?
It's a bottle of English sparkling wine.
Which, for the people who are listening, they can't see that. So we have been very kindly, or this episode has been very kindly sponsored by the Grange, or they have very kindly given us a bottle of their English sparkling wine, which
Shall I open it now?
which is quite exciting for an episode. Yeah, it's a Friday evening at 8 o'clock. You've just been out for drinks as well. Has it got good weight to it? What do you look for in a bottle of champagne?
Well, the champagne bottle shape,
Yeah,
and there are some beautiful ones that are bigger
yeah,
in the bottom half.
yeah.
But otherwise, it's not really the bottle
No.
that worries me so much as the...
Well, while you're
content.
opening that, shall I just give people a quick rundown of exactly this bottle and also the vineyard itself?
Please do.
So the Grange very kindly reached out to us. They've been listening to our podcast for a while, and very kindly reached out and said, or asked if we'd like to have a bottle of their sparkling wine. And this bottle is the classic, as I think it is the classic, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. The Grange, they're based in Hampshire. They're a Hampshire-based vineyard or winery, and it is a family business. That's a good sound. There you go.
Isn't it?
It is a family business where 4 siblings have come together to produce something on the land that they spent so much of their childhood on, and wanted to have something for the future generations. Thank you very much. It is all. Yes, sorry, you need that. It is all. Apparently, all of their wines are award-winning as well, which is quite something, quite an accolade to have. And this, I thought you'd like this because I'll save this for when we try it, because there's a lady who's written in representing the Daily Telegraph, and we have Mum would like to have a glass. She passed that to her. Don't want to miss out.
Very happy with that.
Voila!
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Mum featuring Mum's hand features.
Cheers to the Grange.
Cheers to the Grange, exactly.
Yes.
This is. Should we try it first?
Yes, by all
See what you
means.
think. Cheers. Thank you.
Good health, everyone.
To the Grange. Feels so middle class, doesn't it? Mm-mm. Very nice. Very, very nice. So before I read this out, how would you describe that taste? We're gonna have a bit of fun with this. We're gonna do a bit of a
biscuit in there.
yeah.
Biscuity.
Okay.
Do I just...
So I don't really understand this. I know what I like and I know what I don't like, but when it comes to pulling out flavours and
I'd say there's
tastes,
a bit of sherbet on the nose. Don't laugh.
I'll laugh if I find it funny, which that's quite funny.
Yeah, but you're
I
mocking
don't.
me.
So I just smell. So I can smell. I can smell that it's sparkling. I can hear the bubbles.
Yeah.
And it tastes like champagne, but it's not champagne.
Well, move on.
Right. So Victoria Moore, writing in from the Daily Telegraph, described it as luminous and crisp, with flavours of apple snow and croissant.
Right.
I mean, lovely. You're reading that. It sounds great. I've got nothing personally from
No, but
from that.
if we weren't doing this conversation,
Yeah.
and we were only focusing on the wine,
Yeah.
you would be able to have those thoughts in mind, and you would be able to identify them.
I don't know if I would. Apple snow. What's apple snow? Is apple,
apple-
comma snow?
Yes,
Because
I would think so.
it didn't read like that. So, but either way, it's very, very good. I like it a lot. Do you want to explain what is the difference between champagne and sparkling wine?
Well,
For people
champagne
that don't
can
know.
only be manufactured using 3 specific grape varieties.
Yeah.
You can use one of them or 2 of them and all 3, but you cannot use any others.
Okay.
So it's Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier
Okay.
are the 3. And I think this is true to that.
Okay.
So although it's not grown in
It
Champagne,
has to be grown in the Champagne
yes,
region.
for it to be called Champagne.
Yeah.
The rest of it, anywhere else in Burgundy, you've got Cremant de Bourgogne, which is sparkling white from Burgundy.
Yeah.
Cremant de Loire, same thing. And it's all lovely stuff.
Yeah.
And English sparkling wine is absolutely fantastic nowadays.
It is. It's getting quite impressive,
Really good.
actually.
Now the Grange,
Yes.
if I
Go
can
on,
just
please do.
interject, I have been to the Grange a couple of times for the opera.
Okay.
And if you look online, there are some very nice pictures of the Opera House and some very nice pictures of the Grange itself, which
Yeah.
is in front of the Opera House. But it's largely a derelict building. It is still used for people to have dinner in the interval of the opera,
Yeah.
and it's quite an experience.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're now making their own sparkling wine is.
So you didn't know that they
Great
did
credit.
when you went before?
I don't think they were doing it back then.
Oh, I
actually,
see.
because
Right,
we're going
okay.
back 5 or 6 years. Because
Okay.
the opera, Grange Opera, has now,
God.
excuse me, moved to Surrey, to West Clarendon, I think it is.
Shall I take over for a bit?
Yeah,
Clear your
wouldn't
throat.
Sorry, everyone.
We have also we're going to run a competition as well, which is very exciting. So the Grange have very kindly come on board and offered up a vineyard tour for 2 lucky winners. I will explain the competition in the finer details in a post that you will see on Instagram. But for those that are watching on YouTube, you will have to head over to the Instagram page, so Conversations with My Father page, and follow the details that I will explain to you. So it'll be tagging someone, sharing the post, making sure you're following both the Grange and our Instagram page. And we will, I think what I was thinking of doing was going until Friday next week. So we give people
Good
best part of
Friday.
it. There you go, Good Friday.
Yeah.
Until then to enter, and you can enter as many times as you like. You've just got to tag new people. And the lucky winner, or winners, should I say, will receive a vineyard tour for 2 people at the Grange. And these guys will look after you. We've got a voucher here that we will send through to you guys in the post, and we'll go from there.
Excellent.
So big thank you to the Grange for this whole thing. It's been
Very
fantastic. Now,
What's the subject of this episode?
well, I'd like to tie it into what we've just been talking about. So wine tasting, and drinking and so on, drinking champagne. One of your hobbies.
Yes, I would say
One of
it
many
is.
hobbies.
It's a pleasure and something I do when relaxing.
Yeah.
And that's what hobbies are for, really.
So
to
I would
enjoy.
we are going to come on to those. Prior to that, though, we need to honour this and say a huge thank you to Drew Jackson for the incredible video that hopefully all of you have seen. If you haven't, it is pinned to the top of our YouTube page. Snippets of it on Instagram as well. Drew came round about 2-3 weeks ago now and filmed here at home and did the most incredible job of documenting and I suppose portraying why we've started this podcast in the first place. Interview, everything, all the cameras and everything set up in this room. Some B-roll outside, and luckily the weather was on our side. I mean, just an incredible 4-minute clip that he's put together.
Yes, marvellous.
So a huge thank you. We'll leave his details below as well. But if you want something similar, or you know of anyone who wants something similar, is looking for a very talented videographer, then check out Drew Augustus on Instagram. And Drew Jackson is his name, and he's a pretty cool Kiwi who's very talented at what he does. So big thank you to you, Drew. Anyway, back to what you were, the subject matter of today.
Yes.
Prior to going into other hobbies, because I want to talk about wine tasting, because I did a dissertation on it.
You on vines?
Yeah,
Rather than-
vineyard.
Yes.
Yeah, and ultimately wine.
Yes.
What they're produced. Can you remember why I did it, or what it was on, what it was about?
It was about the length between the main stem and the second node or something like that on a vine.
It's ridiculous. I don't know why I did it. I do know why I did it. It was because we went to Bordeaux, I think. Your friend who has a place.
Yes.
Yeah, is it Bordeaux?
Yes.
Yeah. And we went there, and my brother was doing a week of work experience, wasn't it?
He was.
On the vineyard. And I got just so absorbed into that whole week and staying on a vineyard, and found it fascinating, and kind of a couple of afternoons I'd just go and join him while he was doing whatever he was. What was that? I think he was like tying up the vines.
It was the levange, which is tying up the sideways growing vine fronds, and pulling up a piece of wire, which is attached at each end of the row, and making sure that all the side growing fronds are now held upwards, so they're all growing upwards, so you can walk through between each row without knocking anything or bashing
Probably
anything.
makes it easier for the tractors.
Harvesting, quite right, it does.
And yeah, I got completely absorbed by this. I would have been, probably about 18 at the time, I think, 18, 19.
Yes.
Anyway, it came around to, I did geography as a degree, BSc, so the physical stuff, and it came around to the time where I needed to choose a topic for a dissertation, and I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I had relatively recently come back from this trip away, where it was all on a vineyard. So I thought, right, how can I try and tie that into geography? So I did somehow, and I managed to collect data. I used Chapel Down Vineyard, if you remember. Mum actually very kindly came with me for 2 or 3 days just collecting data on the vineyard. And I just got lost in it, if I'm honest. It's such a huge subject matter.
Yes.
But as you were saying, I can remember the title now. It was Water into Wine, the relationship between trunk diameter, internode length, and fruit composition.
Fascinating.
So really boring. And I got lost. I don't know what it was one of those things I think I've realised in myself. I hone in on something and I want to go all in, and then suddenly I'm like, whoa, what have I done there? So I got lost. Yeah.
Yes, but I
still got a 2-1 and
degree.
Was very happy with it. But yeah, wine tasting. Do you enjoy it? Is it something you do much of? You like buying it?
Yes, I do.
You're not a big drinker.
No, that's true. But it has an investment potential.
Yeah.
But it's one of those investments that if it doesn't work, it doesn't go up in price or value, you can still drink it.
Yeah.
And derive pleasure from it that way.
Because there's a sweet spot, isn't there, with wine, I feel, of like does it depend on the wine, the grapes? I feel like red wine, is this right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you have maybe a 5-year period of when it's at its absolute best.
No, some of the best Bordeaux's actually and the best Burgundies, take it much longer than that.
Okay, all right.
And into that category of longevity, I would add champagne as a possibility.
Okay.
Port from Portugal.
Yeah.
And some very high quality Barolo and Sassicaia from Italy.
Yeah.
And some wonderful Riojas from Spain.
You did overdo it with the bottle you got for your 60th, though.
Oh, it's up on the mantelpiece. Yes, I bought a bottle of 1959 Veuve Clicquot and opened it on my 60th birthday.
Yeah.
So it was made in 1959, and the contents were undrinkable. Absolute filth.
The cork, it kind of broke in your hand.
Oh, it was terrible.
There's no pop, no
major
fizz.
Major disappointment. That.
So that had passed its best.
Several decades ago.
But yeah, you seem to. So we have a cellar at home, and Dad seems. I feel like you stock it up more than we deplete it. It
must be equal.
No, yeah, but maybe you give stuff away. I don't know, but
yes,
Mum and Dad aren't. They're not big drinkers. You'll enjoy a drink or two. But I've never seen you drunk. I've seen Mum occasionally tipsy, but not like absolutely sideways.
No,
maybe the odd occasion once or twice.
No, but it's a lovely thing to share with friends and family as a nice bottle of wine.
Yeah,
and if you can spare the time without seeming to be too pompous.
Yeah.
Comparing a wine with a food.
Yeah.
Is wine with cheese.
Yeah.
Wine with meat. Wine with fish.
Yeah.
Wine which goes with very spicy food, curries and so on.
Okay.
You can get them.
Yeah.
And if you just take the trouble to read a bit about it and why these things go well together, and then sip your wine and then take a mouthful of food, and the two, when they mix together beautifully, it's a glorious thing.
Yeah.
Really lovely.
Well, there you go.
Anyway, I do enjoy my wine.
One more thing I did want to ask was,
yes,
I have never experienced a wine being corked.
Have you not?
I've never. So everyone knows the bullshit parade that goes on at a restaurant where you choose your wine off the list. Someone comes round and the waiter comes round, and then they show you the wine bottle. It's all a lovely act that goes on, ceremony, and then someone's the designated drinker, aren't they?
Tester,
the tester. And often it's the person that's chosen the wine.
Yes.
So they'll be poured a half an inch, if that, and swirl it round, and you smell it, and then that's
all I do. I don't taste it. That's all you need
to do to see if it's been corked.
That's all you're doing.
So I've never.
And if you're asked to do that, with a screw cap bottle, and you can have some very good wines in screw cap bottles.
Yeah.
It's bollocks.
Yeah.
Because you can't get a corked wine in a screw cap bottle. Sure. It's the wine reacting with the cork that makes it corked, and it doesn't happen. That's why a lot of wineries, medium quality wineries and below, are very happy to use the metal closures.
Right.
Because there's virtually no danger of
because you want the wine to be in contact with the cork, is that right?
Yes, to keep the cork moist.
Right.
Because if it dried out, then all hell would go.
Then it would be corked.
It probably would, yes.
Right. So, okay. Because I really, I find it, I saw a video of someone swirling the wine and putting it to their ear. And then, but he looked legit. He looked like he knew what he was doing, and then was like, "Yeah, absolutely fine, that'll do," as if he could hear that.
Never heard of that before.
Ridiculous, but I do find it very entertaining, and I kind of just go along with it. I don't really know what I'm going on about. Is it obvious when it is corked?
To me, it is. Yes.
Okay. All right. I've never.
But when we next have an example of a corked bottle of wine, I'll show you.
You'll show. Okay. All right.
Because it's filthy.
Is that Michael McIntyre sketch where he says it only happens with wine. It doesn't come round. The waiter doesn't come round having with tea
milk.
and coffee. Smells funny.
It smells a bit funny. What do you think?
You have to taste the off milk. But yeah, I suppose that's probably enough about wine.
Yes, apart from the fact that the Wine and Spirits Education Trust Level 2 exam that I took 3 years ago
very true.
Is the only exam that I've passed with distinction.
Only
How
ever
about
one?
that? Only that one, yes.
There you go.
After a lifetime of drinking the stuff, I jolly well ought to have a bit of background knowledge.
You and Bert did it, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I have a little bit more, please?
Yes.
That's very good.
Next topic.
Well, you wanted to discuss some of your hobbies, I feel
yes,
like.
okay.
And some of which I share with you.
Yes.
We want to touch on them. We'll probably dedicate another episode to going into them a little bit deeper. Where would you like to start?
Trains.
Trains. It's not something I share.
No, which is a pity, actually.
It is
a great
shame.
Pity.
None of us really do,
but
actually.
But when my father was 8 years old, he came back from boarding school to his home.
Yeah.
He went up to his bedroom to get out his Hornby railway set.
Yeah.
And this was in the 1920s.
Okay.
Clockwork, mostly.
Yeah.
He couldn't find it. And he went to see his father, and his father said, "Oh, you're far too old for that now. You shouldn't have any retained interest in toys like this." So I gave them to Dr. Bernardo's. And Dad was distraught.
With Dr. Bernardo, is that a shop?
It's a a charity.
Charity.
Children.
Right. Okay.
Sorry about this.
Yeah.
So Dad never forgave him.
Yeah.
For that traitorous thing to do.
Yeah.
So when I was born, and we're going an awful long lot of time between the two.
Yeah.
When I was 6 months old, Dad started to build a model railway.
Yeah.
And I've loved them ever since.
Yeah. Have some of that. That'll help.
I hope it will do.
So Dad's been into you've been into trains since you were since you were born, really.
Pretty much, yes.
Dad's dad had my granddad had a just one straight line in his, I suppose it was like
It was a lean-to at the back of the house.
Yeah, so it was very small, what do you call it, with those glass roofs?
Well, it was a lean-to at the back of the house.
So it was a lean-to at the back of the house with this straight line track on it, which
he'd made and put scenery on it.
Yeah. So it's probably 5 meters, maybe?
In length? Yeah, it could have been.
Something about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, he had these...
And he made it specifically for you.
Did he?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's nice. Well, thank you, Derek. Didn't know that. So he had these trains, and he had Thomas the Tank Engine trains on them.
Yes.
And it was all electrified. Is that right? So you had the nozzle, the control unit.
Control nozzle.
I'm going to go. Dad's going to grill me for my terminology here, but that's what I call it, and that's what resonates with me. So we had the knob.
Yes, that's better.
Better. What's the correct term?
Well, just the controller.
Controller, okay. But it was one that you just twist. And I, being a 2-3-year-old that could barely see up to the track, it was all at eye level, it was brilliant, so it felt like you were there in real life. You just whack it up to full speed, and the engine and the passengers inside must have been,
have been
thrown back. And I'd ram it against the end as well, so it would have the buffers or the things at the end.
Buffers.
There you go, got that right. And then I'd get a bollocking, quite rightly so, from Derek.
Yes, you didn't get a thrashing there.
No, just a verbal thrashing.
Yes.
And because I don't think I ever broke the trains, but I'd hit them into the...
You'd certainly give them a testing.
Yeah, but it's the sort of thing you do when you're 3.
Longevity.
Isn't it?
Yes, I suppose it was.
But I suppose that's really the extent of my train playing.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yes, people would describe it as playing trains.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, because Dad has just continued to have sets and railways that you've... Well, each house you've had something, haven't you?
Not really, because you weren't interested. And you and Bertie weren't terribly interested. Phoebe certainly wasn't.
Yeah.
So it was difficult for me to muster the enthusiasm to build a layout for you that you would spend many hours playing with.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of joy in building a layout and designing it. And
I was more into Scalextrics.
Yes, that's true enough, which is fine. It was a lovely hobby to have.
Yeah.
But now I'm retired and I've been able to build the railway, the O gauge and the shed. I'm happy as Larry.
Yeah, I bet you are. It's a hell of a thing.
The trouble is I can't do all the intricate work of wiring things up as well as I used to be able to.
Yeah. So that's where we're recruited.
That's where I need your help.
Yes, to come back and do the hard work.
No, it's just the delicate work.
But the bit that you can't do.
Yes.
So Dad has this amazing track that is not only inside but outside too.
Yes.
And it is we had I suppose a kind of soft launch when my mates came round in the summer last year.
Yes.
And they absolutely loved it, and it's quite something to see. You know, the trains come out the side of the shed and round this loop and then back in, and it's brilliant. We need to do a drinks.
A hard launch.
A hard launch.
Yes,
yeah.
we do.
Exactly. So,
but I can't think of that until you've helped me wire things up.
Me specifically.
Properly. You and Bertie.
Me and Bert. Okay. All right. So it's a bit beyond you at the moment.
Yes.
Right. Okay. But Dad is a huge train lover. You're not. Would you ever go and stand by a track and do a France? Have you heard of this? What's his name? Francis Bull. France. What? He's a very well known, or clearly not that well known because I can't remember his name. But he's a big TikToker or Instagrammer,
right?
So who just loves trains.
Yes.
And he just goes to platforms and he films himself, and he's got one of these GoPros on his head that's a point of view, well, not point of view because it points at his face, and he'll just film his reaction as the trains go past, and he loses his mind. Loves it.
I haven't come across him before.
He's almost a national treasure now.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I must look him up.
I don't know if you've got quite that enthusiasm. You wouldn't.
No, I have had in the past.
Yeah.
For instance, I've stood on York station platform.
Yeah.
Writing down the numbers of the locomotives going through.
Oh, you have, okay.
And was invited up into the cab by one of the drivers.
Okay.
Just for 5 minutes while the train was waiting there.
Yeah.
And I mean, Dad tried to preserve a line from Great Shelford, south of Cambridge, where we lived, to Linton in Suffolk. I think it's just in Suffolk.
When you say tried to preserve, what do you mean?
Well, the line was there. British Rail had closed it, and this would have been about 69, 70. No, thank you very much.
Okay.
And unfortunately, they didn't manage it, but it was lovely to.
What he would have been contributing to preserve it financially.
raising funds.
Raising funds, right.
To have a preserved railway south of Cambridge, and that would have been great.
Yeah.
But sadly, it never came to pass.
But you wouldn't go down to Wadhurst Station and watch the 832 to Charing Cross.
No, because they're all boring, relatively boring electric multiple units. There's one freight train that operates on that line, which is the British Gypsum train to Robertsbridge, where there is a mine.
Right.
And that's the only freight train that works. Occasionally, one of the nuclear flask trains will come if it's rerouted from Dungeness.
You sound so like James May. It's like a new language.
Is it?
Yeah. It's just like what's double O gauge, Gauge
one,
triple gauge. Is there a double A? No, that's batteries now, isn't it?
Yes, you're
Triple
going
A.
into the land of batteries.
And double what AA is then the road recovery.
Yes.
Rows. So there's the what's the smallest gauge?
Z, I think, as practical. I think there is one smaller than that, but
this, I feel like this needs to be spoken about because that is in shot.
It is in shot, but it's not very clear because we're in a dark room.
Well,
and it's darkly painted, but that is an O gauge 3-rail steam locomotive 440 Sevenoaks in British Rail livery.
What's 440
You've got the 2 pony wheels at the front.
Oh, those 2.
Yes. So there's one the other side, one each the other side. So you've got 4.
Yeah.
And then you've got 2 main driving wheels.
Yeah.
Another 4, and then you've got nothing behind them. Sometimes you do have
440
another truck behind. Yes,
440. Okay. And then what's this thing called? What's that?
Tender.
That's a tender
For the coal and water.
There you go. And that doesn't drive at all. The only thing that drives are those 2.
Yes, on the real thing. Yes.
Right. Okay. So I always get confused between. Dad always corrects me between a train and a locomotive.
Yes.
So that is a locomotive.
That's a locomotive.
That drives
really.
The train
Yes.
is a locomotive.
Well, which pulls the train.
Pulls the train.
Yes.
Okay, I'm with you. But it does confuse the hell out of me.
Right. So we've done trains.
Well, I suppose so. Yeah. What can we go to a hobby that we mutually?
Classic cars.
Yeah, we can. Before that, I'd quite like to touch on Cambridge United.
Oh yeah, we can do that.
Can we do that because you are wearing yellow, or mustard yellow.
Mustard yellow, not amber. Is it?
So Dad and I as well. We share the love. I feel it is a love. It's a tough love, isn't it?
Yes.
With Cambridge United.
This season it is.
So for those of you who don't know, Cambridge United are a League One football team, or for our American viewers, soccer team. So I suppose we've supported them out of the conference. They were in there.
Yes, I've supported them all the way down to the conference.
Oh, what, when they were in what league? League One, Premier.
Oh,
they weren't in the Premier League.
No, the closest they got was the playoffs for the inaugural Premier League season.
How long ago was that?
Early 90s.
Okay, yeah.
And we played Leicester City in the semi-final, drew 2-2, I think, at Cambridge.
Yeah.
And then the second leg, we were thrashed at Filbert Street 5-0. 5-0. And that's the closest we've got.
I've been brought up to. I feel it was thrust upon me.
Yes.
Cambridge United. It was buy the little 3-year-old Freddie a kit, and that is his team that he'll support.
Yeah. Well, a lot of fathers would do that.
That's very true. But I like how you weren't ever really a Glory supporter, because I feel a lot of people are, not to take away from their team, but a lot of people will just go for the classic.
Whoever's winning at the moment, I want to support.
There you go. And I think I did fall into that trap actually, because I remember. Do you remember I used to support Chelsea very, very loosely when
I don't remember
Gianfranco Zola was
Thank
there.
heavens I don't remember that.
He was awesome. But it was very loose, very loose. And then I obviously went to Swansea and would support them, but that was more for the fact that I was there. But Cambridge, I've been a mascot.
Yes, against Blackpool we lost 2-0.
How old was I then?
7. 6 or 7.
So I used to be quite a chunky kid. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, I'm Fred Fit, but I was probably Fred Fat back then.
No, we don't need to.
And I was
talk about that.
Similar shape to a football. But Dad, amazingly, the beauty of supporting a team that are in League One is that there is not a very long waiting list to become a mascot.
To do anything, no.
Probably a couple of weeks, really. With that, they probably need someone on the day. I'll just look to someone in the crowd and ask them to come down. But we played Blackpool, and we were allowed, or I was allowed, to go into the changing room.
Yes.
Meet all the players.
Yes.
And I had my favourite player at the time. Can you remember?
No.
His name?
No.
I'll give you his initials. TB. He was awesome. He was our striker. Go on, you must get it.
TB.
Okay, yeah.
I'll leave that with me.
Okay, he was awesome. Really, really quite a tall guy, like just would bang in tons of goals.
Trevor Benjamin.
There you go, Trevor Benjamin, awesome player. Anyway, loved him, and I remember getting his signature on this yellow, or amber, should I say, ball that I'd been given, this football that I'd go round, and then this signature book as well that I was given. And then we'd finish that, and then you'd run onto the pitch, and you'd take penalties at the keeper. I don't think I scored. I think you'd have been hanging your head in your hands, or your head in shame, watching me run up or waddle up and kick.
No, you were very powerful.
But I think the keepers probably when the mascots are taking penalties, the keepers will save the ball if it's kicked straight at them.
Yes.
But if it's either side of them, they'll leave it.
But you hit it straight
and I
every
hit it
time.
straight. They had 2 or 3 attempts, and I don't think I scored actually, which was very disappointing.
The reason we support Cambridge United is because that's the city of my birth. I couldn't think of any other reason why I would want to.
Wasn't he born there as well?
No, Dad wasn't born there.
But
he
lived
was born
there.
in Ealing.
I suppose
yes, very much
Shelford
so.
was Cambridge, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But they've brought more stress than joy, I'd say.
Yes.
Hence why
if you lose more than you
so
win.
much hair, I think. All
Could be.
Yeah. And why my nails are so bad. That's probably why. But we have, supporting Cambridge United has allowed us to go in a private jet, which is quite cool.
Yes.
The only time I will probably ever go in one.
To watch Cambridge play in an FA Cup replay against Manchester United at Old Trafford.
Unbelievable.
And we were flown up by a mate who was a Man United fan and several of his other mates.
Yeah.
Just an amazing experience.
What a day. I remember you messaging me saying, a friend of mine, is Man United fan, and he knows he knows that we're Cambridge fans, obviously, and the first leg we drew 0-0 at home, which I went to, which was a really good result anyway.
Yeah.
And then went they because the game was in Manchester, obviously. I was thinking, right, we're probably going to need to get a relatively early train up for a 7:45 kickoff in the evening, I think it was. So we'd get up, maybe leave at late morning. And we were told to meet them at their place in Tunbridge Wells, and we'd at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes.
Because we were then heading to Biggin Hill to get there.
Gatwick for the...
No, it was Biggin Hill.
No, it was Gatwick.
It was Gatwick then, apparently. To head up, and my God, that was when Phoebe suddenly developed an interest in football.
Cambridge United, yes. Yeah. And the reason we support Cambridge United is that was the city of my birth.
Yeah, but a hell of a stressful team to support. So yeah, I suppose trains. Well, what's the phrase? Trains, planes, and automobiles.
Automobiles, yes.
We don't really do. Well, we've done the planes there with
plane, yes. That's quite right.
Trains,
and automobiles.
You've kicked off so automobiles, yeah.
For many, many years, I've longed to own a classic car, because the joy of driving it. If you have a classic car and you just take it out for the sheer thrill of driving it.
Yeah.
Not because you wanted to go from A to B. It's just the pleasure you get from taking an old car out, the smells, the feeling of it, the real concentration you've got to put into some of these cars to keep them straight.
Yeah.
But from an era, 50s, 60s, where design was wonderful.
Oh, it was the best. Late 50s through to late 60s, I think that time was...
Glorious cars.
The best.
Absolutely glorious.
E-Type, Ferrari 250 GTO, short wheelbase, Cobras, Astons, you name it, they're there.
Jags, yes.
Oh, well, so good. So good.
That was always beyond me.
Yeah,
in terms of being able to afford it.
Yeah.
I once had my name down for a Morgan.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
That was before you lot came around.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that you'd had that.
And when my name came up, and that was 6 or 7 years later, they had a massive waiting list.
Yeah.
I couldn't justify owning a car like that.
Yeah.
So that went by the by.
Yeah.
And I think I've always loved the Aston DB5.
Yeah.
But that is...
I don't think I know anyone that doesn't like that car.
The iconic James Bond DB5.
Yeah.
Glorious looking machine.
Yeah.
But so expensive, too expensive really to own.
Well, really starting, I'd say, is probably $250,000 starting price.
Yeah, with a bit of work to do.
With a bit of work to do, yeah. You're looking at really $500,000 plus.
Yes.
I've always, do you remember when I was younger, and still to this day, as and when, I don't want to say if, because I want to be confident, but when I really make it, that would be something I'd love to be able to do, is to drive home in one and just be like, give you the keys.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Be like, thanks, Dad, for everything. You deserve this.
Don't be more than 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But my God, I massively share this passion, and hence why I'm now, moving into that world, the motorsport world. And for those of you who don't know, I am now kind of niching out. So I've been a personal trainer for 8 years, and I am now moving into the motorsport world, and becoming I suppose already am, but doing it more and more, a performance coach for racing drivers, and I absolutely love it. It's given me this newfound love for what I do, helping. Thank you very much. Talking about cars and while we're drinking. So I've been doing that now for probably the past year or so, pushing out into that world, and it is one of the most enjoyable things to be able to train someone with performance goals in mind. Is amazing, and I absolutely love it. And heading out to Belgium next week, which you know about,
yes, absolutely.
with a little driver, which is really exciting. He's in karting. And yeah, I've been incredibly lucky, and ultimately just trying to make as many contacts and whatnot in that world. But I suppose bringing it back to classics.
Well, as I would say to you, the great Gary Player, the golfer, South African golfer, he's now in his 80s, I think.
Yeah.
He used to say, strange this, but the harder I practice, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
And there's so much truth in that.
Yeah, I agree.
And I say it because I think that applies to you at the moment.
Yeah.
With your networking and trying to, introduce yourself to the classic car motor racing.
Well, yeah, that I'm not narrowing it down just yet. But
no,
that obviously.
But nonetheless, you're doing very well in that.
Into the F1 scene and so on. So, but yeah, with regards to Dad's love of classics, we go to Goodwood. Dad, you've just become a member, haven't you?
Full member at last, yes.
After how long have you waited for that?
Well, a few years, but I was a full member before.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that had to be sacrificed.
Oh, you were, weren't you? Yeah. That's amazing.
Difficult financial times.
If any of you guys listening or watching haven't been to Goodwood for the car racing, both of us would highly recommend it.
The revival is
the revival is, yeah, obviously, because the members meet is only 4 members or fellowship members, but the revival is second to none. I think it is described as one of the greatest classic car festivals, racing experiences in the world, over and above Le Mans Classic and the Monaco Classic, all this, because everyone dresses in period costume, and it's just one of the best weekends of the year.
It's fantastic.
It's always in kind of middle of September, and we've been quite lucky with the weather. I feel like we've had a couple of good years. and it's just awesome. We're going again this year. We've got the members meet coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yes,
which will be awesome. And one of my goals is, because I got my racing license over a year ago now, and I would love to ride in something. I say ride in something, it sounds weird. Drive a classic around that track, whatever it be. I mean, the dream obviously would be something like a Cobra or something in that RAC TT race.
Yes, when millions of pounds are circulating for about half an hour.
Yeah, you need to either have the money or the contacts, really.
Well, you've got to have the money, because those cars in a race are uninsurable.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you have a bash, you're going to have to pay for the whole lot yourself.
Well, like that Aston that went off in front of us.
Yes.
The DB, I think it was a DB4 GT. Huge crash that happened right in front of us that would have been hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions of pounds worth of damage. As you say, they are uninsurable, and it's just it's horrible when you see it happen, because these guys are fully racing. But then that is the beauty of it, is that these guys they're not holding back.
They are gentleman racers.
Yeah.
If anyone feels that someone behind them is faster, they will just let them through.
Yeah.
And just keep out of the way.
So true.
Of the racing line, which is very nice to see.
I quite like to dedicate a whole episode to cars, actually, because I think we're barely scratching the surface. But I'd love to, because it is a huge passion of both of ours. Can you think of another one that we share, hobby-wise?
Stamps, no.
No.
Gardening, no.
I'll do it. I don't love it, but I probably do more than you do now when I come home.
Yeah, that's may be the case, but it's extremely frustrating for me not being able to do it at the moment. Because, as you know, my medications are causing a few problems.
Yeah. Music is probably like one of, piano playing was probably one of a...
Yeah, music I would say is. I do love that, but I've got to have the right environment and time and determination, because listening to anyone practicing a musical instrument is a deeply unpleasant experience.
Well, if they're bad, yeah.
Well, if you're practicing and you're going to make mistakes.
Sure.
And you're going to have to start again.
Yeah.
Or keep practicing the same thing over and over again until you've got it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is to do with muscle memory.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, whatever the instrument, probably the violin is the worst. But if you're...
There was a student I was with at school who played the cello, who murdered that piece that you found very funny.
That's right. His head was sunk down into his chest, and he absolutely butchered this piece, and then everyone gave him a rousing ovation.
Yeah.
And applause at the end, and he...
I feel like you were laughing in the crowd.
I was rocking with mirth. It was one of those great performances. And he got up, his head was still pretty much tucked down on his chest.
Yeah.
And he just nodded his head to the side as a acknowledgement of the audience.
Yeah.
And then stormed off.
Yeah.
He was not from the moment that he came on to the moment he got off, he was angry.
Yeah, I think that was probably his parents forcing him into doing that. But yeah, I think that is... I enjoy. I'm not as musically talented as you are, but I think we share it to a certain extent.
Well, bless you. We do have a bit of an interest.
Yeah, definitely.
I've struggled with some of the more modern stuff that you'd like to play at home.
Well, Eminem, you quite enjoyed that.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. And what is his name?
Eminem. He's known as Eminem.
Well, what do his friends call him? M?
No.
Dear Mr. M. I'm writing to remind you that. That's his
stage name, Eminem. That's what he's known as. That's like all these...
Great gig tonight, M. Well done.
You've heard of Eminem before?
Well, I have heard of him, yes, because I got that question right
you did
a couple of episodes ago.
Well, you didn't get it right. No, you got it wrong.
You helped me. You helped me, but I did.
You'd guessed Mars and Toffee Crisp beforehand. Who'd imagine being the announcer, the tannoy, effectively coming over, and on comes Toffee Crisp. Like,
I was just playing for time.
Sure, yeah.
But I got there. It was my third guess.
There in the end. But yeah, we do have different music tastes. But then I having been to their ABBA Voyage thing, I really enjoyed that, and I know that you like ABBA.
I do love ABBA, yes.
So yeah, we do.
Agneta, Benny, Bjorn, and Annifrid. Frid.
I thought it was Anita.
Agneta.
Okay. And what else have you written on your sheet?
Well, gardening.
Yeah, we've crossed that one
really
off.
touched that.
We very much tickled that one. Dad has quite a few, to be fair.
Wines, stamps.
Stamps, yeah. Go on. So who, before Dad says, I wonder if anyone knows exactly off the top of their head what a stamp collector is referred to as. Because I had no idea prior to you telling me.
It's not to do with the competition, is it?
No, it's not. But no, you can. I suppose people have had enough time to. If they know it, they know it. If they don't, they don't.
It's a philatelist.
Philatelist, not a philanthropist.
Not a philanthropist. That's exactly what I was thinking.
A philatelist.
So
with a PH or an F.
PH.
Okay.
My father, when he was, again, about the 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
At boarding school, St Bede's in Eastbourne.
He was 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
So St Bede's in Eastbourne, it's still there, as you know.
The Dicker?
No. The Dicker is a different site. St Bede's in Eastbourne is on the cliffs above Holywell.
That we used to play?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And Dad found himself sitting next to a young chap who had been sent over for his prep school education by his parents from Australia.
Okay.
And they would send him food parcels and so on.
Yeah.
And Dad would ask him for the stamps because you could learn an awful lot just by looking at the stamps.
Yeah.
And these food parcels would come in with a 5 shilling, I think it was, Sydney Harbour Bridge stamp, which today is incredibly valuable.
Is it?
And Dad had several of these, and he's swapped them and so on. But it got him interested in Australia specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other side of the world. It's a long way off.
It's quite a way away. Yeah.
But he never looked back.
Yeah.
From that point. And by the time he died, he'd been president of the Cambridge Philatelic Society 3 times. He'd been president of the British Society of Australian Philately 3 times. He'd won countless medals at Stampex, which was the national British stamp exhibition in London.
Yeah.
So he was a very
Had he worked for Royal Mail at all?
No, not like his son.
No.
He really had a fabulous collection of stamps, Australian stamps.
Yeah. All just Australian.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much they were.
Just because that was what he was interested in, not because that's where the money was.
Exactly.
Did he collect them with it being an investment in mind, or did he collect it because of the pure love of it?
Not at all. He, I don't think he ever told Mum what he spent on his stamps, but he told me he'd never paid more than £1,000 for his stamps, for a stamp.
Well, yeah, damn right. One stamp.
For £1,000, yeah. He'd never paid more
good.
than 1,000.
Yeah.
But some of his bits and bobs were worth 5,000, 10,000, 20,000.
So, put this into context. I remember seeing a book of his stamps.
Yes.
A long time ago. Long time ago. Do you still have any?
Yes,
you do still have a few.
Tiny.
Anyway, we managed to. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we went to Australia via you having sold
Hong Kong via Hong Kong.
Yeah, via Hong Kong.
As
sorry.
a result
of selling some of Derek's stamps.
Absolutely right.
Which is unbelievable.
Yes.
And we were in Australia for about 3 weeks.
3 or 4 weeks.
For 5 people. So that's
correct.
So if you do the maths, guys, I mean that's it's not a cheap holiday, and that was paid for via a
Dad's stamp collection.
But it wasn't even the whole thing. It was just some of it, wasn't it?
That's right.
Which is unbelievable. I had no idea that they were so collectible.
Worth so much. Well,
just this piece of paper that people lick and put in the top right-hand corner of a letter.
But the older they are, the rarer they are.
Yeah.
And if you find one with a fault, that's even rarer.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, is it as in it's been misprinted, not like a rip in it?
Not a rip, no. You're absolutely right. So they were all done on printing sheets, like a newspaper.
Yeah.
But sometimes there would be a bit of fluff that got in there, and it would attract the ink, and you'd have a line going across. One stamp on a page or a sheet with 100 stamps on it.
Oh, right, wow.
And if someone spotted that and took it out and claimed it as a fault, then it's quite rare.
Wow. Did you ever have any of those, or did he have any?
Dad's plenty, yeah.
Amazing, I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
I thought that would devalue it.
In more recent times, there was about in the late 60s, when the QE2 cruise liner, Cunard cruise liner was launched.
Yeah.
And there was a stamp brought out in commemoration of that.
Yeah.
And some of them had no Queen's head on them. And that made them very rare.
Or just the Queen's neck?
Nothing. It was just missed out completely from the printing process.
Oh, I see. Right.
And as printing methods have got more and more advanced, there are fewer and fewer mistakes.
Right. I see. So it's even more rare.
Yes.
For something to go wrong now.
Nowadays it is, yes.
Do you have any at the moment that have?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Because you kind of do it on the sly, really, don't you? It's not
I
a
don't
big
really
thing.
do it at the moment. Again, it was one
You'll
of those...
buy sheets of quirky stamps.
Oh, yes, which I will use to post letters, but that's because the post office nowadays does not distribute its commemorative stamps, i.e. celebrating a certain thing, or butterflies, birds. There was one recently, the 100th anniversary of the Flying Scotsman.
Yeah.
And there have been Rolling Stones, commemoratives, and lots of Star Trek, lots of things.
Yeah.
But I much prefer those because they've got a theme to them than the ordinary, just definitive stamps, which now will be just pictures of Prince Charles looking the other way.
King Charles.
King Charles looking the other way. Thank you.
Is that what it is? He's looking.
Yes, apparently that's
to his. As you look at it, to his right.
Yes, I think
because the Queen looked left.
Yes,
I believe.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So if you've ever been the lucky recipient of one of Dad's letters, which you do like to write, don't you? You enjoy a good letter.
Yeah, I do like
That's another hobby, I suppose, of yours, is letter writing. But you're very good at I often keep a lot of your letters because you if the letter contains, let's say, something about sport, you'll choose a stamp that's
sporty stamp,
that's relevant to what's inside, and
quite right.
Or a season, and it's a Christmas ones, and you'll send really nice Christmas stamps. And
when you had a parking fine, I forwarded it to you in London with stamps of police.
He did. Which really rubbed salt in the wound, actually. Yeah.
Yes,
before I opened it, I was like,
I
know what this is now. Dad's just really hitting it home, that I've effed up here. But yeah, I do like it because I suppose it's art, isn't it? In a way.
Yes.
It's a little bit of art
Absolutely,
on a piece of paper that. And if any of you are watching, I like those. What are those little not conundrums, or like a little trivia question that you ask people, saying, well, I can't remember what the word is, but anyway, you ask people what can only be put in the top right-hand corner and can travel around the world. So it's one of those. What do you call that sort of question?
Well, it's a quiz question.
Question, yeah. and it is a stamp because it has to be in the top right-hand corner.
Yes.
Doesn't it? If you put it anywhere else, it probably won't be delivered. Or it might be, but traditionally that's where you put it, isn't it?
Quite right.
But now I've seen that stamps have this this like barcode attached to them.
Yes.
Which I didn't realise. So I bought some the other day to send a thank you letter to Jane and Jonathan, I tried to rip off the stamp from the barcode because I just thought that was maybe something that was done as a way of selling it rather than actually transporting it. And I realised it didn't rip very easily.
Yes.
And I was in the post office at the time, and I said, "Is this meant to come off?" And he was like, "No, don't do that." So I don't know if they've received it yet. I'm hoping they have got their thank you letter, but anyway, if they haven't, it's probably because I've ripped off part of the barcode. But yeah, I suppose that is something again that you didn't really share with your father, like that
stamp
love.
Collecting.
Yeah.
Not as a passion, no.
Which is probably
Trains,
the same
yes.
with
Cambridge United, I was really passionate, but Dad was very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Gardening he loved.
Yeah.
I didn't at that age.
Yeah. Cars? He was quite into his cars?
Well, he had 2 Bentley R-types in succession. They're both second-hand in the early 60s.
Yeah.
Which were gorgeous cars.
Big things.
Yes, huge.
Massive great things.
And then he went on to Citroen DS, which are lovely cars, and he had 3 in succession.
Yeah. What's the one we have up there?
No, it's sadly they've moved into another room. I think they're in the train room actually.
Yeah.
But they were very lovely cars.
What about it? Did he enjoy his wine?
No.
He wasn't really a big drinker?
Well, he enjoyed it, but in a most peculiar way. On his 70th birthday, was it 70th? 70th or 75th, Mum and I took him and Patricia, my stepmother, to Le Gavroche in London, which is one of the Roux brothers restaurants.
Yeah.
Very, very smart, very high quality. Very and I just wanted to, because Dad and I had been brought up on a ration post-war of not very inventive cooking, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to show Dad what 20th century cooking
should be done at home.
No. Mum had died by then anyway. So anyway, we went in and sat down, and the waiter came over, and because we'd made our selections for what we were going to eat, the wine waiter came over with his taster down his
showing you the bottle
neck. Or hanging around his neck, and the wine list. And I said, "Dad, why don't you choose?" And he spent a minute or 2 perusing this. Yeah. And the wine waiter came back, and Dad said, "We'll have a we'll have a bottle of Liebfraumilch, please," which was,
so you remember this
at that time.
Sounds German.
Sweet. Yes, sweet, medium to sweet German wine from the Ruhr-Moselle area.
Liebfraumilch.
Yes, which was sort of milk of the
milk
nun or whatever.
Okay.
There was blue nun. And it was quite filthy, but quite popular at drinks parties in those days.
Liebfraumilch. Does it still exist? No?
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
And the wine waiter was utterly horrified that Dad, because Dad had chosen to eat beef, and he was accompanying that with a medium sweet white wine. Yeah. and bless him, the wine waiter did try his very best to dissuade Father from this course of action, and I was sitting there thinking, "No, Dad, no, that's not right." But it's what he wanted.
Well, how old were you at the time?
Oh, 35.
Okay, so you knew what you... Okay, I thought you were thinking like as a little 15-year-old. You were like, no, you can't go for that. As if you knew any better.
No, but he said, "No, I know what I like. I like what I know. Yeah. So thank you, that'll be lovely." And he forced the wine list back onto the wine waiter, who went away shaking his head. Yeah. And it was filthy.
Yeah.
really unpleasant. But
not what you want.
No.
So he wasn't.
But Dad enjoyed it.
That's the most important.
But no,
thing.
he didn't really make a big thing about wine. It was too ostentatious, I suppose.
Yeah. There is a bit of that. I feel like there's still that kind of stigma attached to it to a certain extent.
To wine?
Yeah. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy a nice glass.
Yes.
I'm more of a red wine, and I do enjoy a champagne or a sparkling wine.
Yes.
So really, that would be it. Those would be the red wine, sparkling wine, and beer really are the three, and the occasional gin and tonic or something. But I don't really drink much white wine or rosé.
Yes.
I don't know. It just doesn't really interest me that much. I don't really like it that much.
Okay. I love it all.
But yeah, exactly. Clearly. But no, I want to get. I suppose Dad and my brother have got this level, whatever it is, level 2, level 3 thing.
Level 2,
which is basically a way of them saying that they know a little bit more about wines and spirits than the rest of the.
But in the end,
average Joe,
unless you go to level 3 and 4,
yeah,
it doesn't really make any difference.
No. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, I suppose it's probably a nice way we've come back round to wine to finish off today's episode, or this evening's episode. We've touched on a few things. I feel like I'd like to delve in deeper into some of those subjects. But that's a nice way of rounding off.
Yes, absolutely.
This evening's episode.
Competition time.
Episode 12. Well, as I said, I will leave the details because, well, you won't know what to do.
No, don't ask me.
But there is the voucher. Do you want to show everyone that little voucher there?
This?
That is, that will be sent to the lucky winners.
There we are.
Explaining
Grange.
there, and then on the back there'll be there is
a
some
message
writing
saying "well done."
Saying
well done.
They can't
read that from there.
They won't be able to read that. A huge thank you to the Grange for providing us and supplying us with a really, really, really nice bottle of their sparkling wine. You can kind of see why it's won some awards.
Yes, absolutely.
Very, very good.
Absolutely.
Just a huge thank you, and please do check them out on all forms of social media and online. And if you don't win, please don't let that stop you from going and visiting the vineyard, because they are more than welcome to host you guys.
And the opera.
And the opera as well, yeah.
And I think
exactly.
you can. They've got some rooms where you can stay.
Okay.
So it's
amazing.
a really nice. You could have a really nice experience.
Very, very nice. So last little bit that people should always do down at this stage is...
No, I've forgotten.
Is it because you've had one too many?
Yes.
Right, okay. Shall I take over?
If you wouldn't mind.
You have another sip and I'll explain. So at this point, guys, please do like, if you can, if you're on Spotify, on YouTube, on Instagram, if you've seen these little clips, please do like it. Please do share it with loved ones, with friends, whatever they are. Spread the message. We're trying to grow this podcast and get as many people listening and tuning in as possible. Comments are very welcome.
They are.
We very much appreciate all your comments. We've got a few little funny things to do. I don't know if Dad knows about them, but I've put out some questions to our viewers, and we'll be reading them out in the next episode, maybe, or the
Excellent.
week, the one after that. And yeah, subscribe if you're listening on or watching on YouTube. We really, really appreciate that. It really does help the growth of this podcast and moving forward. So,
and wish everyone a very happy Easter.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it will be, because this is going out. It should be going out on Sunday, and we should then the following Sunday I'm away in Belgium, sadly, and you'll be down in Wales. But we'll certainly get one out the week after that. So
absolutely,
that is episode 12, over and out. Thank you very, very much for watching.
Thank you very much indeed for watching. It's been a pleasure.
And listening. Well done. Very,
and you
very
too.
Good indeed. Finito.